Good morning. October the 10th, 7 a.m. or just coming up to 7 a.m. So early morning and cold. October the 10th, 2025. Hard to believe. Thanksgiving weekend up here in Canada. And we've got our first frost. So it is literally freezing here. Frosty. Anyway, going on a bit of an adventure today. I'm excited. So I'm waiting for my partner in crime to show up, and he's going to be bringing the trailer along. No, I'm not going to get a Model T, but I am going to get something else. So join me on the road trip. Excitement. All right, the troublemaker has arrived with the trailer in tow. Here we go. Good morning.
Good morning. What's happening again?
We're going to get a Model T.
Again? This time with force in the trailer.
All right, let me get saddled up. All right, so we're on our way to Petersburg, Ontario. That's to the west of us here, about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes or so. Of course, we're in traffic here on the toll route to get there this morning. Anyway, we are picking up a car this morning. I haven't told you what it is, nor am I going to tell you what it is. I will say it isn't a Model T, as we said. I am trying to keep up to this guy as far as the number of vehicles is concerned.
Yeah, you couldn't stand it, eh?
Yeah.
I had more than you for 3 days.
That's right. So I had to get another car to stay ahead of Alin. Like I said, he's a bad influence. Anyway, I will say that this car is a Triumph. So...
Triumph Model T?
No, it's not a Triumph Model T. So anyway, I'll leave you guys to guess. You guys tend to know that I like to go to the more rare side of the Triumph models, like the 250 is fairly rare, let's say. The TR8's fairly rare. My right-hand drive petrol injection TR6 is fairly rare, especially in Canada. So I'm going to classify this car as a very rare car, kind of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to own one. I've rarely ever seen one, if I've even seen one. So I'll let you guys guess at where we're going to pick up. Not sure whether we'll be able to take video when we get there. The current owner might be a little bit shy, so we may take a little bit of video just at the pickup point, but we'll go more involved once we get her loaded in the trailer and back home and inside my garage. We'll maybe do a bit more of a walk around and a little more of a chat about it. Okay, here we are. Oh, and there it is. Taking the plates off. Can you guys tell what it is from here? So we're able to figure it out from that little fleeting glimpse I gave you? Probably not, if you haven't seen the front of the car. Anyway, here it is. Back home. 1964 Vitesse. Well, Triumph Vitesse. Sport 6. We'll talk a little bit more about it once we get it out of the trailer. We'll have a better look. No wonder he said he was freezing this morning. All right, let's do a little closer inspection of the car. Again, I'm not a Vitesse expert. I've only started researching these after last week or so. I did actually agree to purchase the car last week. So I've done some binge watchings of videos and done as much reading on these cars as I can. All I knew when I bought it is that I liked it. And I've liked these for a long period of time. I really like the styling on them. So I like the Herald, but I like the Vitesse with the stacked eyebrow headlights versus the Herald a little bit better. And obviously I like the 6-cylinder power plant that the Sport 6 offers over the Herald as well. So this is a Vitesse Sport 6, and in the UK these would have been called the Vitesse 6. So for the US and Canadian market, or North American market, they marketed these as the Sport 6. So a little bit different. So as I mentioned before, this is a fairly rare car. So they only imported 679 Sport 6s into North America through the years from 1962 to 1966. And I can't imagine how many of these are left actually on the road, probably maybe a couple of hundred. So it's fairly rare from that standpoint. So yeah, it's nice to get something that's fairly rare and something you don't see very often. As I'd mentioned previously, I've only seen one other of these cars in this area. There was a white one advertised in New York a couple of years ago that I was taking a bit of a quick look at, but it wasn't the right timing, so I passed that one by and been kicking myself ever since. And I saw this one come up. It was actually on display at British Car Day. You might have seen it in the video. And I didn't take too close of a look at it then. There's just so much to do on British Car Day. And then I saw the advertisement on the Toronto Triumph Club website and knew I had to go and look at it in a little bit more detail. So last week on our first trip out to view the car, of course I went with Lynn as well. We met with Gary, who's been the owner of this car for the last 10 years. It looks to me like this car has had 3 previous owners, including Gary, so that's not too bad for a 1964. Now, I'm saying 1964 because there's a little bit of, maybe a little bit of discussion over that date. I believe this is a 62, based off of a few things. And again, I'm no expert, but based on the commission number, it looks like this was built in probably between the end of May of 1962 and the end of December 1962. And the reason I'm thinking it's a early car is because of this single gauge in the dash. The later cars would have had a more full complement of gauges. So this being a single gauge car, or a single speedometer, basically no tack, I think this is an early car. So again, according to the commission number, built in 62. Now, it is titled as a 64, and that's possible because from my understanding, and this happens with like later cars like TR6s, for example, when these cars languished on lots, and apparently these languished a bit because the sales didn't go as well as expected in the US, and that's why they stopped exporting them from the UK to the North American market, is because they didn't sell very well. I think the price point was quite high, and then you had, if you can imagine, at that particular point in time, you were starting to get into competition by things like the Mustang. So these did not sell that well. So it may have stayed on a lot and then been registered in 1964. That's my thought. So I believe this is a 62, but probably registered in 64. Now, one of the things I'd mentioned that I like about this car, outside of the styling's done by Michelotti, who obviously designed other Triumphs like the TR4, TR250 body style. I really quite like the styling. I love the little fins here on the back. But the thing I really was interested in is the 6-cylinder in this car. And originally from the factory, this would have had the 1.6 liter 6-cylinder straight 6. This car has been upgraded, if you want to call it. Some might call it a downgrade because it's not original, but this has a later GT6 engine in it, and we'll pop the bonnet here in a bit. It has a GT6 engine from about, if I run the numbers on that block, it looks like it's from about 1968 to 1970. So it does have the GT6 2.2 liter block in this car. So it runs pretty well. It doesn't have overdrive, but we can fix that. All right, maybe I'll give you a quick rundown of the production numbers. So the Sport 6 in particular was only sold as a convertible, but in the UK, the Vitesse 6, there were saloon models as well as convertibles on the market. So from 1962 to September 1966, 31,261 of the Vitesse 6 were produced. There were, of that number, 22,814 were saloon, and convertibles 8,447, and that includes the 679 Sport 6s. And obviously the big distinction between the Sport 6 and the Vitesse 6 is the fact that this is left-hand drive. So in September of 1966 to September of 1968, they produced another 10,830 Vitesse, but then they were called the 2-liter. So they went from the 1.6 to the 2-liter straight 6. They produced 7,328 saloon versions and 3,502 convertibles. Then the last rendition of the car ran from July 1968 to July 1971, where they produced 9,121 of what they call the Vitesse Mark II. And again, saloons, there were 5,649 produced and 3,472 convertibles. All right, let's have a quick look at the interior. Again, I haven't had an opportunity to detail this car yet, but it's pretty clean as it is. It does have some leaves in here, but we'll get those vacuumed out once we pull it into the garage. But again, non-overdrive car. It is an all-synchro. The earlier cars would have had a non-synchro first gear, but this has the all-synchro in it. So I think the trans might be from a later GT6 as well as the differential. We did put it up on the lift when we visited Gary last week, and we were concerned that the differential might have been the original differential, which would have been a 4.1 to 1, which would be pretty winding out on the highway if you were to drive this. But looks like we have a 327, I think, somewhere around there, based on what we found when we turned the drive shaft and counted the number of turns of the wheel. So looks like we're good as far as the differential is concerned. So it is a 4-speed car. These are not the correct seats for the car, but they're quite nice actually. These apparently are midget seats, and they're quite comfortable. I actually fit in this car quite well. So again, single dash or single gauge in the center there with your speedometer. I don't know what the mileage is on the car. It doesn't really matter because it's never a true mileage anyway on these cars. Fuel gauge down the bottom there, and then all we have is a temperature gauge over here. So the plan is at some point, I think, is to put some other gauges in here. I don't necessarily want to mess with the dash. The dash isn't in the greatest condition. It's got some little problems with veneer over there, but it's not too bad. So I think I'd prefer to keep the dash if possible, and then just add a few ancillary gauges, maybe a little custom panel. I've seen a car on the internet, a black one, that's been quite nice, that has a nice little gauge pod here in the middle that I might actually try to make one up myself and do. Well, we'll see. So that's about it as far as the interior is concerned. Nice door panels on both sides. The carpet's in good shape. Again, just needs to be vacuumed on this side. Back seat's quite nice. And we'll vacuum the leaves out. A little cover here. Does not have a tonneau cover. The top is serviceable. It's old. The window's a little bit yellow. Their rear window's a little yellow, so it may be the original top on this car. Who knows? But it does have a certain smell to it. It's got a little bit of a mustiness or an old British car smell to it. So, yeah, quite nice and serviceable. The trunk is very clean, or the boot. Let's have a look in here. So again, just needs a little vacuuming out in here. There's the gas tank over here. And then we've got a spare in here, and the spare tire well is completely immaculate as well. So Gary was nice enough to put me a spare in there, so that's looking very good. So nice and tidy, nice and clean, just a quick vacuum and we're good there. So let me pop the bonnet so you can have a quick look there. All right, maybe before we pop the bonnet, we'll talk a little bit about the wheels on the car. So these are aftermarket alloys, obviously. These are Revolutions. They're 4-spoke, black. They actually could do with a little bit of refinishing, so that'll be on my jobs list. Other than that, they look pretty good. The tires are new. This car's actually had a lot of work done on it in the last 800 kilometers, so as far as brakes and suspension is concerned. So a lot of things are new in the car, which is great. So should be able to just basically jump in it and go. Not too much restoration required, just a few little jobs here and there to make it where I want it to be. As far as the exterior is concerned, I am thinking of putting a stripe on the car. These Heralds would have come with a stripe just above the body line here from back to front, and it gets slightly larger and larger until it ends here, and in some cases wraps around and picks up the headlight nacelles as well. I think it looks pretty sharp. So I've seen a red one with a white stripe, but I'm possibly thinking of doing a black gloss stripe there to pick up the colors of the wheels. We'll see. That's not an immediate thing, but that's something that I'd probably like to do in my future, just to make this car a little bit more my own. So one of the only things I'll need to do fairly immediately is this scratching in the windshield. So it's had a little bit of scratching from one of the windshield wiper blades. So I have bought a windshield polishing kit, so we'll put that to use probably even possibly this afternoon. I'll make sure that this is nice and clear before I take this car for certification. It needs to be certified here and go through the process to get a license for the road. So that I don't believe will certify in that condition. So we'll make sure we get that polished before we take it for certification. As far as the bright work or the trim is concerned, it's in pretty good condition. The bumpers could probably use a re-anodizing or a refinish, but I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be able to find anybody to re-anodize these bumpers here. So they may get sanded down at some point and powder coated. We'll see. We'll check on the anodizing process first and see if we can get that done. Other than that, we're pretty good. The grill's in good shape. Again, the bumpers are pretty good, as well as the overriders. And most of the trim on the car is very good with very little dents. The mirrors are good, although I'm not really a fan of the wing mounted mirrors. I tend to run into them a lot and, move them and want to break them off the car. So you have to be careful about that. Panel fit's pretty good. I mean, it's always apparently a challenge on these cars, the Heralds and Vitesses. Apparently those body lines get difficult to match up, but this car is actually pretty good all around the car. This door I might work on a little bit just to try to bring it up a little bit, but we'll see. It's pretty good otherwise. I may just leave it alone. Might be the safest thing to do. Rear bumper's in pretty good shape. Again, just a little bit of the anodizing, kind of failing here and there, but looks pretty good. There's that Sport 6 badge back there, which I'm sure is probably fairly rare. So yeah, little gas filler cap looks good. So yeah, all in all, chrome, bright work. Looks pretty darn good. Love the quarter light windows, air conditioning. All right, let's get this popped open. I threatened it already. All right, here we are in the engine bay, and there is that GT6 block in here. Looks pretty good. Alternator conversion. This car would have originally had a generator on it, so it's got an alternator conversion on there. So that looks good. Have a look around the other side. Pretty clean in here. Just a little bit of detailing here and there, like the carb tops. I'll clean the manifolds, both the exhaust and the carburetor manifolds. We'll get this looking a little bit better. If I strip the carbs and the manifold off, we'll give the block a bit of a paint. Change out the fuel filter, change out the hoses. There's a few little jobs to do in here, but really it looks pretty darn good. We'll just do a little polishing here and there. So yeah, quite happy with the look. It's nice and tidy in here. And again, the access to the engine compartment is fantastic. I was envious of those Spitfire guys who had the flip front ends. Now I've got one of my own. So yeah, very cool. So let me start it up so you can hear it running. All right, we got her running just on a little bit of choke. She's pretty cold. It's been a cold day today. Sounds fantastic, actually. Nice and quiet. Good exhaust note. Very nice. See if I can turn the choke off now. Might be a little too soon. Yeah, a little soon. All right, there we go with the chokes off. Sounds great. Nice and quiet. All right, guys, so there's a quick overview of my new addition to the fleet, the 64 Vitesse Sport 6. And I'm going to have to come up with a name for it. So if anybody wants to jump in there and give me a good name for this car that might stick. I can tell you that unfortunately I won't be able to get the car up on stands today and do a video for you underneath. But last week when we were at Gary's place, he put it up on a lift for me, and Lynn and myself went for a wander underneath, and it's as clean on the bottom as it is on top. So it does have a few things to talk about as far as suspension is concerned. It does have a camber compensator on it, as these wheels have a tendency to tuck under. So the camber compensator prevents that, or prevents it to a degree anyway. So yeah, there's a few things to talk about underneath the car, but we'll get there when we get there. I thought I would just give you a quick overview of the car in general, and then we'll go into more detail when we actually start to work on it, whenever that's going to be. So the fun part is now for me is I get to go through these boxes that Gary, the previous owner, sent along with me. It's always fun to go through the spare parts that you have. Of course, he sent me some manuals. It's going to be a great help for me because I don't have anything regarding Spitfire, Herald, Vitesse, etc. GT6. So great addition to the library as well. So there she is. Thanks for watching. Thanks for commenting. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks, of course, to Lynn for helping me pick the car up today. We'll see you on the next video.